In this video, we're going to look at parallel and perpendicular lines and how to write equations for them. First, let's briefly review parallel lines. Remember that parallel lines are two lines that never intersect. So, if we look at two parallel lines on the coordinate plane here, we can see that in order for them to never intersect, they have to be increasing or decreasing if they were going down at the same rate. If one line was increasing just a little bit faster like this, then eventually at some point those lines would intersect. So they have to be increasing at exactly the same rate. And remember, the rate at which they're increasing or decreasing is the slope. So parallel lines have the same slope. They have that same rate of change. So if one line has a slope of -3, then the other line has a slope of -3 as well. Perpendicular lines are lines that intersect, but they intersect in a specific way. They intersect so that they form 4 right angles. So you'll notice that in order for them to intersect in this way, we have to have one line that's increasing and one line that's decreasing. So their slopes obviously aren't going to be the same, since one's going to be positive and negative, and one's going to be negative. But the slopes are what we call opposite reciprocals. So the opposite part means that they have different signs. And reciprocal is a word that you should remember from talking about fractions. So if one line has a slope of -3/4, then the second line, we'll call it M2, has a slope of 4/3. So the reciprocal, remember, is where we flip the fraction over. So in order to find the slope of a perpendicular line, you have to change the sign. So this went from negative to positive, and we have to flip the fraction over. So another example, if our first line has a slope of 4, remember we can think about that as 4/1 if we want, then the second line will have a slope of -1/4. So we flip that fraction and we change the sign. So let's look at writing the equation of a line parallel to y equals -6/7 x minus 7 that goes through the point 6, -3. So this will be very similar to what we talked about when we were looking at just writing equations of lines in general. So the first thing we need from this other line is just the slope. We don't care what the y-intercept is, we just need to know that the slope is -6/7. Since we're looking at a parallel line right now, our slope is going to be exactly the same. So from here we take the slope and the point and we put this in point slope form. So y minus -3 equals -6/7 times x minus 6. So as a brief reminder, point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now we'll simplify this, so y plus 3, and then over here I'll distribute, equals -6/7 x plus 36/7. And then all we need to do is we need to just subtract the 3 from both sides so that y is by itself. And so remember, that means we're subtracting 21/7 if we get that common denominator. So we have y equals -6/7 x plus 15/7. And again, you can leave that as 15/7 because it's reduced. You do not have to change it to a decimal or an improper or a mixed number. So similar to that, now we're going to look at the same thing, but we're going to do a perpendicular line. So we talked about how the original slope was -6/7. So the slope that I need, we'll call it M2, we flip that fraction over and we change the sign. So we're going to need a slope of 7/6. So we'll put this in point slope form. Y minus -3 equals 7/6 times x minus 6. Simplify, y plus 3 equals 7x minus 7. Subtract 3 from both sides, and we get y equals 7x minus 10. So that line will be perpendicular to our original line. Another example, we'll look at writing the equation of the line parallel to y equals negative 7x plus 9. So the slope of this line is negative 7, which means because they're parallel, my slope has to be exactly the same. Then we'll put this in point slope form, so y minus negative 4 equals negative 7 times x minus 5. We'll distribute y plus 4 equals negative 7x plus 35. And then we'll subtract that 4 from both sides, and we get y equals negative 7x plus 31. So that line will be parallel to the original line. Again, same thing, this time we're going to look at a perpendicular line. So like we talked about before, this line has a slope of negative 7. So the slope I need is the opposite reciprocal. So I'm going to flip that fraction over. Remember, we can think about it as 7 over 1. So that's going to be 1/7. This one, the original slope was negative, so mine's going to be positive. So the slope of my perpendicular line is 1/7. Plugging this in, we have y minus negative 4 equals 1/7 times x minus 5. We'll distribute y plus 4 equals 1/7 x minus 5/7. Then we'll subtract 4 from both sides, which again means we're subtracting 28/7 when we get that common denominator here. So we end up with y equals 1/7 x minus 33/7. Again, leave that as an improper fraction, just make sure that it's reduced.